So it says in verse 15, and I will put enmity. And the word they put for enmity, okay, is avad. They said, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, Isha, and between thy seed and her seed, and it shall bruise thy head. That head, the word for head is rosh. It also means, aside from the physical head, it means leader, military captain, chief, head of state. So we got to read in its right context. So it says, and between thy seed and her seed. Hold on, who's thy seed and her seed? They talking about the devil. It says, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It's funny how they put thy there. They should have said between the devil's seed. The word for seed is zerah, which means what? Semen or offspring. So they're telling you that they're going to put enmity or evar, which means hatred. They said they're going to put hatred between the devil's children and Eve's children. Man is not in the equation. Between the devil's children and Eve's children. It said, I will put enmity, which is hatred, between thee and the woman, and between thy seed, offspring, the devil's offspring, and her seed, Zephra, her offspring. It shall bruise thy head, or bruise her head of state, or her chief, or her captain, the leader of her military. And thou shalt bruise his heel. This is funny when they got the word for heel, because this word heel is shoe. And this means, heel means the people of the forefront for the military, meaning her protection. They're talking about the woman's protection. And thou shalt bruise his heel, right? Or his line of defense. So we found the captain or the chief being Rosh, and we found the heel being the chain of command, just right behind him. Of course, this has to be read in the right context based on the Hebrew. We read it in English. This is going to be like, yo, Polite talking about a military in the Bible. You should have heard us talking about rocket ships like 2 Wednesdays ago. People thought we was bugging out. But we read it in the context of the language that it was written in. We find out that part of this curse is hatred between the devil's children and the woman's children. Part of this curse is that her man is going to be broken down. Therefore, she won't have no defense, because his first line of defense is going to be broken down. We got to watch the dysfunction that's taking place. And it says, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. The word for conception is heron. Okay, conception means childbirth. Heron means childbirth. So it's saying the woman, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, thy birthing pains. In thy sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. And the concordance number for children is 1121. 1121. 1121. The word for children, though, in Hebrew is yedalim. Yedalim means children. They didn't put that word here, though. The word they put for she will be cursed to give birth to children is the word they put bane. What does bane mean? Bane means sons. See, Hebrew is very specific. You can have women children, you have men children, you have children that was never breastfed, you have children inclusive of male and female. In this particular case, it's telling you that the woman will be cursed to give birth to male children. Before people say Polite is pushing feminism, before people say Polite hates men, I'm reading the scripture based on its original context. So here we have women that understand what it means to deal with or deal with the reality of Heron. Heron means conception or childbirth. So it's clear that women understood what childbirth was, or Eve knew what childbirth was, because part of the curse is I'm going to bring about pain in childbirth. So she been giving birth to children because she understood this. The problem that comes in is the curse is you will give birth to male children. That's what it says in here. I'm not saying this. People, I got to keep reminding people of this, because people have hardships when you start giving back. Oh, Polite is pushing. Men are not necessary. I think men are necessary. I just think they're secondary. So now you have, again, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, which is Heron. In thy sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. In thy labor thou shalt bring forth male children. The word for male children is bane. It's bane. Bane is male children. Like Ben, son, bane is male children. Male child. This is Genesis 3:16. And thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over you. Right? Rule, which the word for rule is moshel, which means to reign over or gain control, which means to not have control prior, but to have control now. Didn't have control then, but have control now. So just imagine if all those women that fill up our churches were to find out that when she gains back the grace of God, she is the ruler again. And part of her falling out of grace with God, right, was to give birth to something different, like male children. And part of the curse is that these male children will gain control over her, which gives us an intimation that she had control over her own life. Imagine if the pastor was breaking this down and saying, I was your cursed girl. You have to raise up and become a leader in society again and stop letting the man rule you. Imagine. Then his ass wouldn't be teaching from the pulpit no more. You would be. See, when the woman gains grace by God, according to the scriptures, when she gains grace by God, she has the ability to rule again. Which means women were the initial rulers, according to scripture. I only go into scripture today because a lot of us religious. And we claim we conscious, but then when I say the black woman is God, the niggas start going back into scripture. And why he made Adam first, and da-da-da-da. So they say, okay, we like playing selective. We don't like the scriptures, but then when we want to prove our chauvinistic points, we want to run back to the scriptures. So I'm like, okay, I'll rock with you. Because the difference between me and them, they don't speak the language in the scriptures. I do. So I know what they're saying. Okay? Like for instance, when Muslims pray that they seek refuge in Allah's yielding ability and his mercy, they have this word here, Ar-Rahim. When they say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahim. What is this saying? They seek refuge in Allah's yielding ability and mercy? No. This word is the word womb. So when they say Ar-Rahim, they are not seeking refuge from Allah's mercy or being grateful because of Allah's mercy. They're seeking refuge in Allah's womb. So you seek refuge in what they say Allah Ta'ala, phonetically is Allah, not Allah Ta'ala. They play games on Negroes who join the religion and help their oppressor oppress their women. Because if we knew that Allah had a womb, Ar-Rahim, if we knew he's seeking refuge in Allah's womb, then this would imply that Allah was a woman. Unless you're going to tell me Allah is a male deity with a womb, then now we have to guess if he's a hermaphrodite, if he's intersexual. It brings up a whole bunch of categories. So people say XX and XY is Mayat. And I say, I don't know what the hell Mayat is. You know why? Because I speak the language. You will write Mayat. This is Mayat. And when you speak the language, you understand. When you're Europeanized, you make European mistakes. The word there is, this is a meme, ayin, or meme, ayin, aleph, and ta. That's the word, what we call Mayat. So first of all, what we call Mayat doesn't make sense. Because the ayin, because we in English don't understand how to pronounce ayin, we have a tendency to try to pronounce the letter, the name of the letter in the word. So we'll try to say Mayat, Mayat. And then eventually it turned into Mayat. So the first part of balancement is the proper pronunciation. when you have an ayin conjoined to an aleph, it comes ah. That's how you say it. Ah. So it'd be ma'at, not mayat, not mayat. That's an English mistake. Because of English influence, we don't understand the letter ayin. We try to say ayin while we're mixing it with the letter M, and it turns into mayat, and then eventually we start saying mayat. That's the first problem. Second problem is, if you're telling me balance is based on XX and XY chromosome, and that's my at, and all things exist in duality, my next question is, so then what about the XXY chromosome? Or the YXX chromosome? Or the YXY? Or the XYX? You know, people won't apologize after that. After they disrespect me and say, that's not balancement, XX and XY, that's not balancement. Then they disrespect me. So then I say, first of all, you're mispronouncing mayat. It's mayat. That's first of all. Second of all, there's more than just XX and XY. Third of all, the Y chromosome is degenerate in contrast to the X chromosome. That doesn't mean you as a man have to get offended. Why? Because there are over 120,000 chromosomes that deal with gender specification. Someone miseducated us and told us we only can associate with the Y chromosome. So you see, if people ask me questions, then we would learn and we wouldn't have to insult each other. But instead, they call me a faggot. They say I'm a feminist. And I'm saying, brother, I'm trying to educate you. I told you the Y chromosome is degenerate in contrast to the X. And you got so upset with me, you wouldn't allow me to keep educating you to tell you don't have to pick the Y chromosome to associate to yourself. You can pick another chromosome. Why the Y? There's over 120,000 gender-specific chromosomes. Why pick the most degenerate one out of them all? And the biggest problem is to explain to people the first XY combination didn't come from what we phenotypically perceive as a male. The first XY beings were females. You see, that's another problem with people. But I got in my book, Desecration of the Womb. Got the facts there, but people don't want facts. People want oppression and subjugation for the woman. It doesn't make me less of a man because I worship and honor women. I know what the word worship means. I worship women. How can I not? I came from one. It's common sense. So now we have what? You keep going. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men. We see another quote in Genesis 6:2-6:4. The sons of God saw the daughters of men. They actually plugged in the word for daughters and the word for sons. They made a distinction here so people won't act crazy. The concordance number is 1323. Banot, which tells you the word for daughters. So if they wanted to say the word daughters, they would have put Banot there. They put she was cursed to give birth to male children there. I didn't say that. The scripture said that. See, we like using the scriptures to our advantage to oppress our women, but then when the truth comes out and we realize all world religions have their inception in the worship of women, now we want to close the books and get conscious again, so-called. So I'm back in the scriptures again, because they've been taught us the truth. It's the people teaching from it, not teaching us the truth. So we can go on. Go down, baby. Go down, keep going down. So these are a bunch of other words that are used. Bunch of other words that are used for children in the scriptures. Zerah, which means offspring, they didn't use that word. Bakar, which means firstborn, they didn't use that word. Yanek, which means suckling, a child that's being breastfed, they didn't use that word. Gamul, which means weaned child, they didn't use that word. Elam, which means child becoming firm, they didn't use that word. Nar, which means youth or servant, they ain't use that word. Yatham, which means fatherless child, they ain't use that word. Bakla, the ripened one, a young warrior, they ain't use that word, they use Bain. I gave you all the verses in the scripture that use these words, so you don't think I'm making it up. They chose to use Bain, sons, and say part of her punishment, this could have been the birth of the degenerate Y chromosome in contrast to the X. They could have actually identified this in time. This is another thing. Let's go here.
Amara Unu calling out tahune la kunga menu abuhina kala na mazume bo wapa kan sa uchela go me fa funa liba ya mushela dume lo abu huyera hayo wi mera mushiba karatungi na wa asihera hasafuni karu sudiba fida humni le rus memba hakuk atuf na fa hula hook tenda you atuf lama hu wa sunit na da hu ga kuspa haru ha uka tafu le aku tem hine ku yaku yukina zika won di ine ku marud kato hata mazalu ana won kalu hina waku kanu hata bakamun. Yeah, y'all can't get that. That's for the next album.